Hey, good morning, guys. Chris here, one of the Braveheart facilitators. And this morning, I wanted to bring to you guys a thought process, something really to consider as the theme for this month is lead your world. We're talking about kingship, influence, and impact. Uh, do you do you hear that? No, listen closely. Okay, so that's what we're talking about this morning. We're talking about hearing. We're talking about more specifically listening. A couple notes here I want you to consider. When I said, do you hear that? Uh, Subconsciously, you're thinking about sound. But as I asked you to listen, you actually engaged a completely different muscle and a completely different part of your brain to process sound. A couple notes here. Hearing is involuntary. So no matter what you're doing, what you're thinking, as long as you're really awake, and even when you're not awake, your hearing is involuntary. Like right now, I could hear my washing machine saying it was done. You know, plays a little sound or something. Might pop up again in the video. But hearing is a psychological process that's automatic. It's subconscious, and it only involves the ears. It's a continuous process to help us navigate the world around us, but we're not always aware of it. Like in some ways, we actually tune it out because sounds become common um, and just part of the rhythm of the world that we live in and how we live life. Listening, on the other hand, is voluntary. And here in a minute, I'm going to link it to why this is really important with leading your world and influence. But listening is voluntary. Listening is a psychological skill that requires conscious effort, attention, and intention to understand and make sense of the sounds that we're hearing or the words that we're hearing. It's a temporary process that engages the brain to interpret meaning and can involve other senses like seeing and touch. Listening can also lead to emotional responses. Hearing is basic, hearing is involuntary, listening is voluntary, and listening is almost really three-dimensional. Some say that hearing is like collecting data, while listening is more complex and three-dimensional. Listening can be improved with practice, and people who are good at listening usually excel in other areas of life, and it shows. This is why, as a dad, with my 4-year-old and my 6-year-old, I cannot stress them enough how important listening is. As you all know, and I'm sure you've either experienced this example in life, maybe with your own parents, or maybe as a parent, yourself, you've done this with your children, but you ask them to listen to you, listen to your voice, follow through, engage, and listen. Because one day when I ask you to stop and not run out in the middle of the street, it could save your life. It's a very extreme example, but there is truth in that, right? And so, how does this fit with lead your world? Well, like I said, I'm a dad, and so I'm actually sometimes it feels like many days it feels like I'm failing in this area. But man, every day I'm trying to lead my world in the sense of my kids, my family. Like I am doing my very best to just hold the pieces together, trying to acquire help wherever help is given, be it through the grandparents or through friends' advice, maybe counseling, reading books. But most of the time, my leading my world, and when it comes to influence, is it just hits really close to home because that is my world. I'm an entrepreneur. My business has one employee. I would say my business has two employees, one of them being me. And for the longest time, it was just me. And so leading my world can sometimes feel really small. And maybe you can relate to this. Maybe you work in a business where you're like, I don't have any influence, or I'm at the bottom of the corporate ladder, or I am. There's no way there's not a big giant circle of people around me that are I'm standing up and giving presentations to, and so I don't really have much leadership there, or I don't have a lot of influence. And I would challenge you to rethink that, because your world probably has more access and opportunity and influence than you would dare imagine. As I really started processing for myself, even though I live in a pretty small bubble at the moment, I used to work in a church where, I had 100 volunteers any given Sunday. I had, 100, 200 students that I'm engaging with. And so in that sense, I was like, yes, I have a big world to influence and lead. And so these decisions are really big, but I would argue that they're still just as big. It might feel like it's on a smaller scale, but I have no idea what my son or daughter, who they're going to grow up to be. I have no idea what kind of influence they're going to have in their world. And it does start at home, and it does start with how me and my wife influence them and lead to their world right now as they grow up. But this could be if you're not a father, this could be as simple as your neighbor next door, maybe your brother or your sister, perhaps an old colleague. Just choose somebody that you would say, yeah, maybe I don't even live in, it's crazy in our digital world now, as I'm coming to you right now over video, maybe you don't live close to someone in proximity, but you are close to them in proximity of relationship. And make a short list. Make a list of 3 people. And then out of those 3 people, picture yourself in the last conversations you had with each one of them. And ask yourself, how well did I listen? How well did I make a conscious effort to pay attention to what they were saying, do my best to understand where they were coming from, and make sense of what kind of emotional responses are coming up, and then take a deeper dive with them, explore, ask questions, get them to talk more and express themselves more. And it doesn't even have to be about something serious. It could be about an adventure they went on. It could be about a family vacation. It could be about their day. It really could be about anything. But when we explore with them, ask engaging questions about, just simple statements like, tell me more about that. Or we ask questions like, wow, that seems like that was really difficult. How did you handle that? Or, wow, what emotions, what feelings come up as you experience that moment? And just let them talk. When we do that for our world, be it our children, our coworkers, our families, our neighbor next door, when we do that, we have created a place where that person feels seen. They feel understood. They feel accepted. And now, in a way, you have gained their attention. You've gained their respect. You've gained, you're now influencing them on how you respond with empathy, with sympathy, with love, with care, with consideration. And so I say this, to wrap up for today. I think it's really important that we use our ears, that we use our listening ears whenever we're talking. And I always talk to my son about this. He's 6 years old. I say, Wyatt, do you have your listening ears on? Are you listening to Daddy? And he'll stop what he's doing most of the time, and he'll make eye contact with me, and he's just waiting for what I'm about to say. And so I think in a world where we are so distracted by all the things and all the conversations, and perhaps even selfishly more entertained with what we want to do or what's most important to us, we need to learn how to push all of that aside and give our listening ears to the person in front of us. And when we can do that, I believe that we can lead our world better. Whatever slice of the world that God has given to you in this moment in time, be it a couple of kids, your family, your coworkers, whoever it might be, I believe we can make a big difference just by listening. That doesn't mean that you have to have the answers. It doesn't mean you have to have the solutions. It doesn't mean anything else except I see this person in front of me. I want them to know that they have been seen, they have been heard, they have been listened to, kind of in that three-dimensional way where I'm really trying to see all the facets of what's going on here. And I'm not trying to fix it. I think guys, we get beat up for trying to solve issues all the time, which I get it. I think we are problem solvers. We can be guilty of that. And it's okay to help process with people, but how do we just listen to them? How do we be better listeners? And so that's my challenge for you this week. Consider 3 people that are in your world that you influence, and then replay the last couple conversations you've had with these people and ask yourself, am I listening? Try it on and see, maybe evaluate your listening skills, your listening ears, and how you might do that differently. So with that, I hope you guys have a fantastic Monday. Thanks for tuning in.